Imagine that you had a kid, and that kid wanted to be a dancer. They practiced long hours every day, and they clearly have a passion for it. And now they've started to compete in tournaments. And so you go to a competition, and there's lots of kids there, and they are all working really hard. And at the end of it, your kid is not selected for the top 3. She doesn't win. What do you tell her? Do you tell her that she was cheated out of the prize, that she deserved to win, and that she was clearly better than the other kids? Or do you tell her that, well, maybe this just isn't your thing. Maybe, you're supposed to do something else. Maybe, they were just really good, and, it's just, how could you possibly compete with that? Or do you say, you're clearly the best, and you're clearly amazing, and the next time you're gonna get it, right? What would you do? What I would tell you to do might sound very counterintuitive, but what I would tell you to say to that kid is this. It looks like the competition is really tough, and that you're gonna need to work really hard. Perhaps there are certain movements that you're going to need to practice or work on more. What there are certain things you saw the other kids do that you would like to practice to get better? How do you think you're going to need to change up your practice regimen to get better next time, right? Like, often when we think about being hard on ourselves, being negative, being critical, we often think, oh, I shouldn't be so hard on myself. I shouldn't be so critical. I shouldn't tell myself I'm bad, I should encourage myself. I should be a cheerleader. I should say, you can do it. Yes, you can. You're the best, right? And here, that's the thing that I think a lot of people get wrong. A lot of people think, if I am positive and if I'm just going to praise myself and if I just think the best, things are going to work out, right? And here, I would say, on the contrary, why are we so afraid of being negative? Why are we so afraid to be critical? Why are we so afraid to point out and recognize our own flaws? If we're competing in a sports tournament or in a trivia game, or if we are competing against other students to get the highest grade, what do we do in order to succeed and to try? Well, one thing that we want to think about is we might want to be a little bit hard on ourselves, right? We might want to say, well, it clearly seems that I don't really understand this part of the math book yet, and I'm going to need to practice extra to get it, or maybe I'm going to need to look at it from another angle, right? It seems that on this part of the test, I did really poorly, and I'm going to need to think about why I did poorly on that part and how I can improve. It looks like I wasn't really able to study for this part, or that this was more difficult for me. Do I need any additional resources? Should I ask my teacher for help? Or are there other things I can do to make sure that I master this, right? And the part of this is learning to love learning, right? Because the truth is, I think why people are hard on themselves is not necessarily always because they dislike themselves. That's what people get wrong. People think that you're being hard on yourself because you don't like yourself. But a lot of the time, people are hard on themselves because they just love to learn. They love the feeling of mastering something new. They like progress. They like feeling like they're getting better. They like figuring out the more complicated parts. They like reflecting on or studying things more in depth to make sure that they get the right answer. Challenge isn't always a bad thing. Challenge is something that encourages us and keeps us in a state of mind of confidence and empowerment. So here is what you need to do in order to allow yourself to be more hard on yourself. If you find it hard to be hard on yourself, well, one thing you might want to consider is, do you trust yourself, right? Because that's very important. If you trust yourself, if you trust that you can grow, if you trust that you can improve, if you trust that you can learn, being hard on yourself isn't a bad thing. If you don't trust yourself, however, that's a problem. Right? Imagine that you don't trust yourself. You think you're an awful person. You think you suck. You think you're stupid. And now you start going through it all and you start looking at it and, I can't do that and I can't do that and I'm bad at this and I don't understand that, right? If there is no trust, there is no chance for healing, for repair, for improvement. And so you're just in a cycle of negativity. And this is the kind of negativity which can get really, really toxic. It's toxic to criticize yourself and at the same time doom or judge yourself. And what we all have to understand is there's a difference between guilt and shame. Guilt is when we say, I should have done that better. I should have been nicer to that person. I should have said this instead, right? Like that's the kind of guilt which breeds and improves you as a character, as a person, right? And here, shame is when we are judging ourselves. I'm a bad person. I'm a mean person. I'm a dishonest person, and so on, right? If you judge and label yourself, you doom yourself. And so by constantly putting yourself into a role or a stereotype or using these kind of lazy excuses, you're often denying yourself the opportunity to learn. And perhaps you were simply not taught how to learn in school. Perhaps you weren't taught how to learn by your parents. Perhaps your parents said, well, kid, you're just not smart enough, right? Or maybe your parents were like, oh no, you're amazing. You're always perfect. You're so intelligent, so gifted, so talented, right? And if you're in one of these two extreme groups, chances are you grow up to have a fixed mindset. Having a fixed mindset means that you judge your accomplishments and your hard work as a result of your character rather than of your hard work. You don't see the progress or the effort that you put into things. You don't see that effort makes a difference. You think that everything that happens in the world is a result of things that were defined for you before you were even born. You think that you just inherited those skills. You think that you just magically knew how to do these things. You didn't recognize that it was a series of time, effort, and practice over time that added up to you being able to do that thing. And if you can't do that thing, you immediately judge and say, well, it must be because I'm stupid. It must be because I wasn't smart. It must be because I wasn't good enough. And often what I see, which I find so fascinating, is say you're practicing for basketball and you keep trying to throw the ball in the hoop, you keep missing. A lot of kids would give up. A lot of kids would be like, I'm just a terrible shot, right? Like, I don't know basketball. I'm awful at this, right? And they'd give up and they'd go do something else, or most likely do nothing at all because, yeah, that's the problem that happens in that situation. But certain kids, they don't give up. Certain kids, if they miss, they keep trying. Oh no, I missed. I gotta have to study. I gotta do this better. I gotta change my technique. I gotta try a different way or angle, right? And so they keep working at it over and over again. And you see them there 15 minutes in, you see them there an hour in, you see them there 2 hours in, they're still trying. And you're like, what are they doing? Why are they keep trying? For what reason do they keep putting in all this effort? And so this is the story that I feel is kind of drilled down to us over and over. Hard work breeds results, but we don't notice hard work. We're trained to only see results. If a person dedicates their entire life to becoming an athlete and works really hard at it, and then succeed, people will say it's in his blood. It's a gift. It's something he was born with. It's something he's just so talented, And here, if we're looking at it from this angle, no wonder a lot of people grow up to be very, very lazy. No wonder people don't try. No wonder people don't put in the effort. They're taught every day that people that are successful in society, they just have it in their blood. They were just born that way. They just got it to them naturally, and they didn't need to do anything to keep it or achieve it or get there, right? And of course, that's a very tempting way to think about it. And honestly, I find that positivity is increasingly tempting, right? Like I see so many people that just worry or feel that they don't want to feel guilty anymore. They don't want to feel bad. They don't want to make mistakes. They don't want to feel that they've done something wrong. They don't want to, have this ability, this wonderful human ability to have empathy, to reflect on your mistakes, to recognize flaws, and to want to improve. They want to just feel good. They want to feel like they're amazing. They want to feel like everything they do is perfect, and they want to feel like everything is positive right away, immediately. And because they want things to be so positive, because they want things to be so great, they avoid things. They avoid being better people. They avoid working hard. They avoid studying. They avoid things which bring up these feelings of guilt, of not being good enough, of not working hard enough, because they're trained to think that being positive is a good thing, and that being negative about things and analyzing things is a bad thing, when a lot of the time, often remember, why am I being negative? Why am I being positive? For what reason and for what purpose? Being positive should be for the sake of it being a tool to help you succeed. Like if you're going in for an event and you're just standing on the field and you're just about to compete, be positive. Yes, think positive. Visualize your success. That's when positivity is perfect. That's where positivity breeds results. That's where it helps you improve, do well. But after an event, after a failure, allow yourself to be negative. It's perfectly okay to, after you failed at something or after you did something bad, to sit down and to feel that I did something bad. I made a mistake. What did I do wrong? How can I do better? How can I improve next time? And so learn to use both optimism and negativity as a tool for your own success. Learn to be your own cheerleader when you need cheering on. Learn to be negative and hard on yourself when you need to learn, when you need to improve. And learn that being negative doesn't need to mean being hard or mean to yourself. It just means helping and yourself to improve. Similarly, being positive towards yourself is a means to an end. It doesn't mean necessarily that you love or dislike yourself. Just by thinking positive or being positive doesn't make you a good person. And so really what makes you a better person is just a consistent desire to improve and do better. And a lot of the time here, there's these judgments, right? Well, I'm not the best of the best, so I suck. I'm awful, right? I'm not as good as basketball as Michael Jordan, so I'm a terrible basketball player, right? Or, well, I'm much better than that loser that has never touched a basketball, so I'm a good basketball player. A lot of the time we do these kinds of invisible comparisons where we kind of lie to ourselves, right? We use these kind of relative metrics to either discourage ourselves from taking action or, well, once again, to discourage ourselves from taking action. Yeah, see how by judging and comparing yourself to the elite, you deny yourself the chance to improve and get better at something. Just because there's people that are going to be better than you doesn't mean there is no reason for you to try to at least be a little bit better or to get a little bit further ahead. And just because you're better than the worst of the worst that have never practiced doesn't mean that you're perfect. It still is room for growth. And here, instead of comparing yourself to other people, compare yourself to yourself. Hold yourself accountable. Take responsibility for what you do and think about, what your next steps are. What could I do to get even further? How can I improve to get even better? What can I do to stay intellectually alert, to keep learning, to keep growing? What can I do to make sure that I keep exercising and that I keep true to myself? What can I do to make sure that I hold myself accountable, that I act ethically, that I treat other people well, and that I make the world a better place? All these things are so much more important than just simply being positive or being negative. Or what do you think? How do you feel about being hard on yourself? And what do you think is the right way to be hard on yourself? And what do you feel is the wrong way to be hard on yourself? And do you agree with me that there's something wrong with being always positive? Or do you think we should aspire to this kind of pink-eyed sunglasses, only looking at what we do well and ignoring everything we do badly?